Reem Ibrahim is back with us, Head of Media at the Institute of Economic Affairs. Reem, good afternoon to you.
Hi, good afternoon, Ian. How are you?
All good at this end. Nice to have you with us as ever. And of course, this was a big announcement this morning, not just by reform standards, I think on the political landscape, our country's political landscape. We've never heard a party leader make an announcement like this, a series of measures that will crack down on illegal immigration and prioritise the rights of British citizens. Let's take a listen to how the reform leader laid it out this morning on his plan to stop the boats.
The only way we will stop the boats is by detaining and deporting absolutely anyone that comes via that route. And if we do that, the boats will stop coming within days, because there would be no incentive to pay a trafficker to get into this country. If you come to the UK illegally, you will be detained and deported and never, ever allowed to stay.
Well, there it is. I mean, I'm struggling, Reem, to see why anybody would suggest this is controversial. I mean, those that might have been planning the journey have got 5 years' notice not to do it. So it all seems fair and dandy. Can it work, though?
It's really interesting, I think, the way that Farage has been able to really communicate this. And I actually sort of appreciate the kind of slowness towards the way he came about this approach. I mean, he was accused of being too soft on this when he said that he wasn't supportive of mass immigration in one of those interviews. And I actually quite like the fact that he said, well, no, because somebody within my own party was saying that we should deport people that were born in the United Kingdom, which is, of course, completely absurd. And that isn't the type of immigration that people are really angry about. I mean, the immigration that people are angry about is predominantly those that come to this country illegally, those that are able to claim huge amounts of taxpayer-funded benefits. If you live in the UK and you work and contribute, I think that most people, at the very least, would be fine with you working, contributing, and financing you and your dependents. So what Farage is proposing is, of course, leaving the European Convention on Human Rights, the ECHR, and various other international treaties that make it very difficult for us to be able to deport those that come to the United Kingdom illegally. It's also saying that illegal immigrants are going to be arrested, deported as soon as they arrive, so to countries like Afghanistan, Eritrea, various different countries in which those people are obviously coming from as well. It's very difficult when they don't have documentation. You know, if somebody says, I can't tell you where I come from, and they've thrown their documents in the ocean, there are some practical barriers there. But at least there is the impetus, there is the motivation to ensure that the rule of law is being followed.
What are the potential downsides, Reem, I suppose, to this? And a few people have already picked this up. Somebody on X called Just Me says, Ian, do you honestly expect we will survive another 4 years of mass immigration, whether it's legal or illegal? Farage makes promises for the future, not now when we need it. And there is a genuine issue there, because based on current numbers, if Nigel Farage succeeded in 2029 to become Prime Minister, that would mean by then we would have, based on current figures, another 250,000 people that have made the journey across the Channel. And in fact, there is another school of thought on this one, Reem. It could actually be worse, because many of those Channel crossers might say, we've got to get in quickly, because come 2029, there's a new law coming in.
Well, I suppose people should have thought about that before they voted Labour. And they voted for this government.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point.
I mean, look, I'm not party political necessarily. I don't really think that necessarily there are particular parties that can do that. But, you know, that is always going to be a problem when it comes to the way in which migration works and the way in which people are able to come. I personally don't have a problem with immigration as long as those people are financially supporting themselves. And actually, and I know that there may be some people that disagree with me. My personal problem with immigration at its current level and at its current state is that those people are coming and claiming taxpayer benefits. They're getting taxpayer-funded hotel rooms. They're getting taxpayer-funded permanent social housing. That is my problem. And their dependents, even those that are on health and social care visas, those legal migrants, bring over dependents that also are able to claim benefits. So my problem is actually not with immigration as a concept. I think free labour markets are brilliant. I think if a business in the UK wants to hire somebody from abroad, they should be allowed to. My problem is with the government and the size of the state and the fact that British taxpayers are being forced to foot the bill.
And I guess, you know, again, people will look at the hotel situation now, this thing costing us around about 7 billion quid a year to accommodate all of this. That doesn't include the use of the NHS and areas such as that. All of the people currently in hotels, and that doesn't include all the people that used to be in hotels who've now gone elsewhere, all of those people would remain, one assumes. So this would be, and this is not Nigel Farage's fault, but it would be from day one, whereas Rupert Lowe, he didn't name-check Rupert Lowe, but that's clearly who he was referring to, I think was talking about going back and looking at all those people since 2016 who've made that journey and making this a more, in his words, a more meaningful mass deportation.
The problem is with what Rupert Lowe is proposing is that he knows that he would have never been near government to actually see it through. And the thing is, I think what Farage is proposing is actually believable. It's actually something that possibly could happen. You know, I think it's important to note that sometimes politicians that don't know that they'll ever get anywhere near power will promise things, make themselves look extremely popular, but they'll never need to see it through. Whereas Farage is in a position now where he very likely could be the next Prime Minister. Reform UK are soaring ahead in the polls. They could very likely win a majority at the next election. And so whatever Farage promises right now, the public are going to hold him accountable for after the election. I completely understand the appeal of mass deportations of people that have come here over the last few years. However, I just don't think it's feasible. I think Farage knows that, and that's why he's not making empty promises, or at least I hope that's what is the case. He isn't making empty promises that aren't going to be fulfilled when he actually is potentially in number 10. There's also the crucial point, at least from my perspective, you know, if Farage comes in and says, you know what, if you've come here in the last 10 years, you are not entitled to benefits, I think that's absolutely fine. And all of those people would be forced to work. If they didn't work, they'd have to go elsewhere. And I think that is probably a fair system. The reason why I say this is Rupert Lowe kind of came after me on Twitter the other day, on X, sorry, because he was saying, you know, if you don't speak English, you shouldn't be in the United Kingdom. And I said, you know, that's probably a fair point. But when we're looking at countries like, you know, the UAE, where in Dubai, there are loads of Brits that have moved to Dubai that don't speak a word of Arabic, and yet we don't seem to have a problem with that. But the thing is, those Brits that go to Dubai are not entitled to benefits in Dubai, right? They're not entitled to any kind of welfare system. And so I actually think the problem, at least from my view, the problem is the fact that they are entitled to taxpayer-funded benefits. If you take that away, force them to work, force them into the 600,000 vacancies that we currently have, let them actually work and ensure that they are contributing and financially supporting themselves.